Day 301, on the power of rituals. A growing body of research suggests that as little as 5% of our behaviors are consciously self-directed. We are creatures of habit, and as much as 95% of what we do occurs automatically or in reaction to a demand or an anxiety. If the vast majority of what we do is an automatic behavior, then what we need to focus on in the first place is making sure that our rituals are empowering. But first, we need to identify and assess our automatic behaviors. Starting from when you wake up, make a list of all of the automatic behaviors you engage in throughout the day. Do you immediately go to prepare coffee? When commuting to work, do you always swear at other drivers? When you arrive at work, do you automatically start gossiping with your colleagues? When shopping, do you automatically buy things you don't necessarily need if you see that they're discounted by 50%? When you're tired but there's still one more chore to attend to, do you routinely watch TV first and then take care of the chore, or forget about it entirely, or do you do it immediately, instead of giving in to the temptation to procrastinate? This simple exercise will help you take stock of your rituals and decide which ones to keep and which ones to discard. Since automatic behaviors often take place without us being entirely aware of them, making such a list may help you discover your blind spots. In addition to performing this exercise, pick one day during which you'll try to catch yourself whenever you're automatically engaging in disadvantageous behaviors. It's only with heightened self-awareness that you can identify some of the little everyday habits that negatively affect your willpower. Week 44. Day 302, on listening to your gut. You might find the idea of listening to your gut feelings odd or even ridiculous. Some people I coach, normally left-brain individuals who use logic and facts all day like engineers or accountants, are not used to following their intuition and feelings. Instead of asking themselves, "What do I feel?" they are more comfortable asking, "What do the facts tell me?" Using logic and facts is essential in accomplishing your goals, but sometimes it's important to listen to your gut, instead of what you can determine through using a rational thinking process. For example, I was once running a company in a profitable industry, with a good and proven business model. There were many possibilities for growth, clients enjoyed the service, and it was probable that, with enough persistence, I would get venture capital funding and expert coaching. However, in my gut I felt that the business wasn't for me. It clashed with my personality, and no amount of rational thinking, facts, and logic would have persuaded me otherwise. In the end, I sold the company and it proved to be the right decision, a decision that was based primarily on my intuition and feelings, not logic. Don't ignore the usefulness of your gut feelings. It's fine to be self-disciplined and remain persistent no matter what, but if deep down you no longer care about your goal or it otherwise makes you feel uneasy, let your intuition make its case. It's highly probable that it's right. Day 303, on Buddha's counsel. The Buddha also counseled the monks and nuns to avoid wasting any precious time by engaging in idle conversation, oversleeping, pursuing fame and recognition, chasing after desires, spending time with people of poor character, and being satisfied with only a shallow understanding of the teaching. Buddha's advice offers several interesting challenges you can dedicate yourself to in order to work on your self-discipline. The first one is not engaging in idle conversation. Small talk might be useful to initiate a conversation, but the sooner you get to the business at hand, the more effective your communication will be. By idle conversation, we can also include gossip, criticizing others, or complaining, all of which are not practices in which a disciplined person should engage. The second suggestion is simple: avoid oversleeping. As long as you don't need more sleep to recover from a difficult workout, illness, or any other similar situation, sleeping too much doesn't deliver any benefits and, according to scientific research, might even hurt. In one study, sleeping too much was associated with psychiatric diseases and higher body mass index 303. The third suggestion advises against the pursuit of fame and recognition. Too often, people care too much about their status in other people's eyes and neglect other, more important aspects of their lives, which may only be visible to themselves. Focus on becoming better, but not necessarily with the expectation that somebody will reward you for it. The fourth recommendation is not to chase after desires. There's not much to add here. This entire book is about learning how to control them and focus on something more important than your temporary urges. The fifth piece of advice pertains to structuring your social life in a disciplined way. Spending time with people of poor character increases the risk that you'll develop a poor character, too. Lastly, Buddha reminds us not to be satisfied with only a shallow understanding of what we're learning. This advice is particularly useful for students and virtually any person learning a new skill. Resist the temptation to learn just the bare minimum and only scratch the surface of the topic you're learning before you leave it altogether. Use your willpower to make sure that you thoroughly understand the fundamentals and then proceed to more advanced concepts so that you deepen your understanding of what you are seeking to learn. Day 304, on the unsexy reality of work. How much time can you spare each day? For that interval, close the door and, short of a family emergency or the outbreak of World War III, don't let anybody in. Keep working. Some people believe that super-productive individuals have some kind of a secret or a natural inborn talent that allows them to produce so much output. However, the reality is unsexy. All they do is put themselves in front of their computers, or whatever else they need to do their job, close the door, and work. There are no miraculous solutions, no pills, frameworks, or blueprints that the most productive people have to be able to produce more than you do. When reading his masterpieces, it's difficult to imagine Stephen King simply sitting in his room and tapping away on his keyboard, but that's how his day-to-day life looks. If you're unsure whether you're doing it right, because there's nothing attractive nor particularly outstanding in how you perform your daily work, stop worrying. Everyone else, including world-class performers, works in the exact same way. The only difference between you and them is that they have spent a bit more time than you have, working on their craft, but there's a level playing field here that requires the same resources from every participant: self-discipline, persistence, and an unbreakable resolve. Day 305, on the addiction to electronics. It is one of the unexpected disasters of the modern age that our new unparalleled access to information has come at the price of our capacity to concentrate on anything much. The deep, immersive thinking which produced many of civilization's most important achievements has come under unprecedented assault. We are almost never far from a machine that guarantees us a mesmerizing and libidinous escape from reality. The feelings and thoughts which we have omitted to experience while looking at our screens are left to find their revenge in involuntary twitches and our ever-decreasing ability to fall asleep when we should. There's no denying the fact that modern technology is a blessing. It allows us to learn, make money, connect with our loved ones and other people from all over the world, entertain ourselves, and with each passing year, do a whole lot more. Yet, there exists a danger of becoming addicted to electronics. Smartphones reduce our attention spans. Easy access to information makes us too lazy to learn, and since it's now so easy to get new things delivered to your doorstep, we're constantly looking for a new shiny thing that will be the ultimate magic pill and solution to all of our problems. I don't believe that technology is our enemy, but I do believe that too much of it, as with excess in anything, leads to problems. Fortunately, where there's a problem, there's an opportunity to learn. You can dramatically improve your self-control by periodically reducing the amount of time spent using your phone or other devices. For example, while you're on vacation, resist the temptation to take a picture and share it on Facebook. Instead, focus on the present moment and engrave it in your memories, not your social feed. In the evening, at least every now and then, turn off all of the blue light emitting devices and spend an hour reading a book. You'll have an easier time falling asleep, and it will be more recharging, too. Whenever you catch yourself feeling anxious to check your phone or social media feeds, it's a sign that you're losing control. Re-establish it by periodically going on short technology fasts or deliberately checking your phone less often than usual. Day 306, on ignorance. There is nothing more frightful than ignorance in action. Ignorance is a manifestation of laziness. Instead of actively choosing to expand your knowledge, you instead choose to willfully bypass the opportunity to educate yourself. A side effect of ignorance is the fostering of negligence and laxity, two traits that are the opposite of what a successful person should embrace in their life. Disregarding important information and choosing to not know when you do have access to education is like willfully asking for trouble. Being financially illiterate, for example, can lead to economic problems. Ignoring the needs of your partner, instead of learning about what they need from you, can destroy your relationship. Ignorance of the law can lead to prison. Ignoring new technologies and failing to learn about relevant modern inventions makes you less relevant in your professional life. Choose to be prepared rather than ignorant. Know too much instead of too little. Practice your self-discipline by constantly expanding your knowledge, and don't discontinue your self-education when the truth is uncomfortable or leads to difficult questions. Day 307, on breaking your rules. Laws and principles are not for the times when there is no temptation, they are for such moments as this, when body and soul rise in mutiny against their rigor. If at my convenience I might break them, what would be their worth? We've already talked about adopting principles you'll live by in order to make your decision-making process more efficient and make choices that are more aligned with your true desires. It's important to note that those principles aren't for the times when everything goes smoothly. In fact, you don't necessarily need them when things are going well. It's primarily when there's a temptation to give up that you can experience the power of rules. You create them to prevent yourself from making the wrong choices, no matter what the circumstances are and which temptations you feel. For example, I have a rule that growth happens outside my comfort zone. I don't always feel like subjecting myself to discomfort and fear. However, there's a reason why I adopted such a rule. Without it, I know that I would back out more often, and thus miss out on those opportunities to grow. Whenever you feel a temptation to break your rule, remind yourself that it's there for a reason. Breaking it means that the principle, and the reason why you chose it, isn't important to you. What does breaking your own rules say about your reliability? Can you trust yourself if you fail to keep a promise that you made to yourself? Day 308, on not having money. If only I had more money, is the easiest way to postpone the intense self-examination and decision-making necessary to create a life of enjoyment, now and not later. It's easy to say that you don't have money and consider it the ultimate excuse as to why you aren't working on your goals. I don't have money, so I won't start exercising because I can't afford fitness equipment. I don't have money, so I won't start saving money because how can I save money if I don't have it? I don't have money, so I won't start eating more healthily because healthy food is too expensive. Is it really true that nobody has ever become fit without having loads of money? The marketing techniques of the fitness industry lead you to think that expensive gear is needed to get fit, but many do without it, often as their own choice, and are more than fine. Are you really unable to save even $1 a day, just to establish a new positive habit? Are you saying that your every single purchase is necessary and can't be reduced even by a small fraction? Is healthy food really more expensive than junk food? Ask any person taking hypertension or diabetes medication, caused by their own bad dietary choices, whether they think that eating junk food was a more economical choice. You don't need to eat all organic or shop in expensive stores to eat healthily. Using money as an excuse is taking the easy way out, defaulting to mental laziness rather than seeking a solution. True, it helps you avoid some effort and hard thinking today, but costs you future improvements in your life and leads to a victim mentality. Week 45. Day 309, on the matters of right and wrong. Right is right even if no one is doing it, wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it. More than 70% of US adults aged 20 and over are overweight or obese. Does that mean that it's right to be obese? On average, American adults are watching 5 hours and 4 minutes of television per day. 310. Does that mean that it's right to spend a third of your waking hours and well over a half of your leisure hours watching TV? If you're after self-improvement, you need to acknowledge that the right thing is right even when few people are doing it, and that no matter how many people are doing the wrong thing, it's still wrong. Don't comfort yourself by saying that your negative habits aren't that negative because so many people engage in them. Even if everybody exhibits such behaviors, it doesn't make them right. Have the courage and self-discipline to resist the temptation to compare yourself to the majority. Instead, if you must compare yourself to anyone, compare yourself to the people you want to emulate, even if they're but a speck in an infinite crowd of people who don't care in the slightest about becoming better. Day 310, on having good private teachers. From my great-grandfather, I learned not to have frequented public schools, and to have had good teachers at home, and to know that on such things a man should spend liberally. Here's one of the ultimate shortcuts for success. If you want to learn something or achieve a goal more quickly, find a good private teacher to guide you. Spend your money eagerly on one-on-one instruction, because expanding your knowledge and experience, unlike many other investments, is a surefire way to get a positive return. Group classes are extremely ineffective teaching tools because the teacher's attention is spread over too many students. If you have an hour-long class with a teacher and there are 9 other students, on average you only get 10 minutes of the teacher's attention. Even if the teacher's fee for a private class is 5 times higher, it's still cheaper than a group class, considering how much more you'll learn. Consider hiring a coach for any important endeavors or to kickstart a new change. For example, you can hire a nutrition expert to develop a meal plan for you or a fitness coach to design a workout plan for you. You don't necessarily have to keep paying them forever. The initial help can be sufficient to get you started, and then all you have to do is continue to practice what you learn from them, until your needs change. One additional benefit of hiring a private coach is that once you start paying to get professional help, you'll start taking your objectives more seriously. It's easier to back out if there's nobody to whom you need to give an explanation as to why you want to give up. Day 311, on setting an example. Example has more followers than reason. Does it bother you that people laugh at your efforts, wonder why you're deliberately making your life so difficult, or feel otherwise puzzled about your recent efforts at making positive changes in your life? Save your time and energy trying to reason with them, it won't work. Instead, focus on your goals and set an example. Soon, when you achieve some results, people will start following your example, understand why you're doing what you're doing, or at least shut up. For example, people criticized me when I was on my diet, saying that I was already skinny and shouldn't lose more weight. However, I knew that I had to drop some additional pounds to uncover more muscle definition. Once I reached that goal and my muscles became more visible, it became clear that I had been right from the get-go. No amount of reasoning will make people change their minds in the same way as an example standing right in front of them. Similarly, don't try to persuade people to implement positive changes in their lives just because that's what you're doing. Leave them be, and if they notice your results, some will probably ask you for advice and try to achieve the same results themselves. Again, it's about setting the example, not expending empty words. Day 312, on learning without a desire to learn. Just as eating contrary to the inclination is injurious to the health, study without desire spoils the memory, and it retains nothing that it takes in. You can learn almost anything you want as long as you have a desire to learn. Without a good reason why you want to learn something, or worse, being forced to learn it with no interest whatsoever on your part, as is often the case with college students, you'll retain little of what you learn. The reason is simple: the human brain needs to be picky about what it remembers and what doesn't, so if you consider a fly on the wall as more exciting than the subject of your study, you'll be more likely to remember the fly's position during the entire hour of the class than the topic of your lesson. For example, I once took a few Russian classes to prepare myself for a trip to Kyrgyzstan, a rugged mountainous country in Central Asia. However, unlike with Spanish, a language I speak fluently and am fond of, I couldn't develop an interest in Russian. My classes weren't particularly effective because, deep down, I had little desire to learn that language. There was no positive emotional connection with it. That's why I so strongly emphasize that each endeavor, including the goal of learning a new skill, needs to start with a strong desire. If you don't have that, you'll be fighting an uphill battle. If you're forced to learn something and are struggling, try to find something interesting about the subject. For example, you might find that Russian grammar is not particularly interesting, but perhaps trying to improve your accent in it is fun for you. You can also use educational resources that teach in an entertaining way. YouTube videos can be a good source for that. When it comes to learning languages, I'm a big fan of watching TV series that are broadcast in that same language. If you still can't find anything exciting in learning the topic itself, turn toward the reward it offers you, such as a promotion at work or being able to graduate from your learning program, and use that, the reward, as your sole motivation. Be careful, though, extrinsic motivators are weak motivators, and it's always better to combine them with internal rewards, like the enjoyment you get from learning or from the challenge it poses for you. Day 313, on what you demand from life. Remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity, than is required to accept misery and poverty. It all comes down to what you demand from life. Accept nothing less than abundance and prosperity, and if you combine it with diligent work, you'll eventually get it. Tolerate misery and poverty, come up with rationalizations about why you're miserable, and bad fortune will stay in your life. It's important to understand that it takes virtually the same amount of effort to come up with excuses as it is to find reasons why you can accomplish something. You can direct your energy either way, but only one of them leads to success. The next time you catch yourself thinking that you're destined to be unsuccessful and that you should accept your bad fortune, change your thoughts, remind yourself about how dissatisfied you are with your current circumstances and come up with reasons why you will be successful instead of continuing as you are. For example, while I was trying to build a successful business and failed one time after another, I still kept reminding myself that I would never tolerate being an employee. Nothing would have stopped me from making my goal come true. I would never accept anything else than abundance and prosperity. They may sound trite, but some self-help bromides are actually true. Your attitude and expectations do impact your life in a big way. Day 314, on neatness. People exert less self-control after seeing a messy desk than after seeing a clean desk. Here's an easy self-discipline hack for today. Clean your immediate surroundings and benefit from improved self-control. A messy desk, and the unpleasant thought in the back of your head reminding you that eventually you'll have to clean it, occupies precious mental space you could otherwise spend on something more useful. Chaotic immediate environments are also distracting, and thus lower your productivity. In addition to taking up both physical and mental space, clutter can also affect how you feel about yourself. People feel better when they take a shower, shave their faces, put on makeup or perform any other grooming habit, and they feel worse when their appearance is not up to their standards. A messy room has a similar effect. It indicates that the person working there isn't organized or lacks the self-discipline to keep it tidy. Keeping your room neat and tidy demonstrates in a physical way that you are organized and self-disciplined, and that will subsequently affect your inner world, too, just like dressing for success gives a small boost to one's confidence. Day 315, on the cost of education and ignorance. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. One of the worst excuses you can use to rationalize that you can't educate yourself is to say that you don't have the money needed to do so. For one, ignorance is more expensive than education. One valuable piece of advice from a book can recoup its price 1,000 times or more, while committing one big mistake, that educating yourself might have prevented, can lead to devastating losses. A person who has never taken the time to learn how to eat healthily, something a $15 book can rectify, can ultimately pay for it with their life, while a person new to fitness may pay for their ignorance with a painful injury, something they could have prevented by watching a few free videos on proper form. Second, in today's world, education is available freely to anyone who has access to the internet. While a private teacher can help you immensely, you can also learn a lot on your own, from free videos, tutorials, articles, and books. For example, I taught myself how to write. I've never taken any formal courses, yet I'm now a best-selling author. How to create and modify websites. I'm not a programmer, yet I can design a professional website, using available resources, or how to promote my books, even though I don't have a degree in marketing. It's important to escape the paradigm of education equals a college degree. You aren't educated merely because a piece of a paper says so. In fact, it's often the opposite. Many students treat college as an extension of their childhood instead of an opportunity to learn and gain experience. Meanwhile, those who skip going to college often gain valuable, real-world experience that they can build upon. When hiring contractors to help me in my business, I never look at their formal education. All I care about is their reviews, portfolio, and proposal specifying how they can help me. It's what they can specifically do for me that counts, not mere words that may or may not confirm that they're educated. If you aren't sure where to find high-quality education online for free or for a low price, check out Udemy, Coursera, Khan Academy, Stanford Online, Harvard Extension, Open Yale Courses, Codecademy, or simply look for the topic that interests you on YouTube, Amazon, or in the iTunes Store. Week 46. Day 316, on doing what you love. Every man loves what he is good at. If at first you don't fall in love with the process necessary to make your dream come true, don't despair. As long as you don't hate it, everything is fine. The love for the process comes along with consistent improvements. It's impossible, or at least unlikely, to eventually not fall in love with what you're becoming good at. For example, many entrepreneurs think that they need to do what they love in order for their business to succeed. In reality, what matters most is that their business fulfills a certain need or solves a certain problem. If I hire your company to clean my house, I don't care if you're passionate about it. All I care about is whether you can do it well, on time, and for a reasonable price. Initially, you might not love being in the cleaning business, but if your business starts doing well and you become good at running it, you'll probably enjoy doing it, and thanks to that, it will get even easier to grow it. The same applies to any other goal. Get started, make sure that you feel at least neutral about it, and be patient, because once you start getting better at it, the process will become addictive and you won't want to stop. Day 317, on thinking you're able. They are able because they think they are able. It might be a trite reminder, but it's nonetheless frequently true. People often achieve impossible feats merely because they think they are able to do so. If you don't think that you're able, you either won't try at all, or if you try, it will be a half-hearted attempt that is almost guaranteed to fail. In rock climbing, I sometimes deliberately try routes or single moves well above my ability. I've found that sometimes the mere belief in your abilities can lead you to climbing a difficult route that, without such a belief, would result in a spectacular failure. In business, the companies that grow the fastest are led by entrepreneurs who don't set any limits for themselves. If they decide to sell their services to a Fortune 500 company, they'll start figuring out how to do it instead of wasting time pondering whether they're able to do so. In sports, it's often not the training in itself that makes an athlete successful. It's what they tell themselves during the competition that makes the difference between winning or losing. The next time you face a big, seemingly insurmountable challenge or find yourself in a situation with a low chance of emerging victoriously, assume that you're able to overcome it, and then act as if it were true. Life isn't a fairy tale, so it won't always work. However, if you assume that you aren't able, and that will manifest in your hesitant actions, you'll be always doing yourself a disservice. Day 318, on the inconvenience of change. Change is not made without inconvenience, even from worse to better. If you want to remodel your house, you expect and accept the inconveniences it will cause. There's no way to replace the old windows, tiles, doors, or kitchen cabinets without making a mess. Repainting your bedroom means that you have to move furniture to another room. Giving your bathroom a makeover means that you'll have to use a different bathroom or go to a friend's house to take a shower. You accept the disturbance that remodeling causes in your life because you want your house to be nice and cozy. Likewise, if you want to change something in your life, in order for the old to go, there also must be some mess involved in the process of replacing it with the new. You might feel cranky upon waking up earlier than usual. You might be exhausted after the first several workouts. You might despair while you are trying to figure out how to learn a new skill. Whenever you feel this way and feel tempted to give up, frustrated by how inconvenient the process of change is for you, remember that to go from worse to better, some minor, and sometimes major, annoyances are par for the course. Get over it and get on with your life. Day 319, on learning from refusal. One never knows a man till he has refused him something, and studied the effect of the refusal. One never knows himself till he has denied himself. The altar of sacrifice is the touchstone of character. Let's be clear, denying yourself nice things is neither easy nor fun. However, in addition to the incredible benefits it brings in the form of increased self-control, it's also a powerful test of your character and a self-discovery tool. For one, self-refusal provides an opportunity to understand what you need in your life and what you only think you need in your life. Unless you stay away from what you consider your necessities for a period of time, you won't know whether they're really necessities, after all. For example, on many of my adventures, I had to sleep in less than comfortable circumstances, such as in a car parked by the road or in a soaking wet tent with homeless dogs fighting outside. I had always thought that I wouldn't be able to recharge in such circumstances, but often I was actually more recharged after several hours of such uncomfortable sleep than in my own bed. What I considered a necessity was in fact a luxury. This realization made me a stronger person. I expanded my comfort zone and now I know I can handle sleeping in a wide variety of weird places. Second, refusing yourself pleasant things can show you the depth of your addiction for them. For example, I used to eat a few pieces of dark chocolate daily. I assumed it wasn't a big deal and I thought I could stop eating it whenever I wanted to. However, when I decided to take a break from eating all kinds of sweets, I felt immense cravings. Denying myself a few pieces of dark chocolate, an innocent pleasure, made me realize that I had been addicted to it. Finally, while we were young, it was our parents or other caretakers who told us we couldn't get something. We fumed and protested, but there was nothing we could do about it. This way, unbeknownst to ourselves, we learned that we couldn't always get everything we wanted, and I dare say it was one of the most powerful lessons in self-discipline a child could receive. Today, as adults, most of us don't have such gatekeepers. If you want to eat chocolate, you can go to the store and buy it. Nobody will force you to eat broccoli instead. If you want to spend the entire Sunday in bed, nobody will kick you out of it and force you to go out and play with other kids. This freedom feels good, but there's also danger in it. By spoiling ourselves this way, we eventually do ourselves the same disservice as parents who spoil their children. Self-refusal, in essence, can act as an emergency brake, stopping us from spiraling into overindulgence. Day 320, on change as a cold bath. A great change in life is like a cold bath in winter. We all hesitate at the first plunge. Hesitation is normal when you face a big change in life. After all, you're facing the unknown, and what's unknown is scary. In the end, though, the longer you stare into the abyss, the more frightening it appears, and the more difficult it is to jump into it. For this reason, it might be useful to think of a great change as being similar to taking a cold bath. The less time you give yourself to worry about how cold it might be, the more likely you are to actually jump into it. For example, instead of wondering how tiring and uncomfortable it will be to go running, just put on your sports shoes and get out of the house. The more time you spend meditating on how unpleasant it might possibly be, the more likely it is that hesitation will kill any remnants of willpower you still have inside of you. When decluttering your house, the same strategy can help you resist the temptation to keep things out of sentiment. Some old items are indeed so valuable that it might be worth it to keep them, but more often than not, people who tend to accumulate things use this rationalization for every piece of junk. Give yourself 3 seconds. During those 3 seconds, if you can't come up with any powerful memory that the item gives you, throw it away. If you need to make a difficult phone call or have an uncomfortable conversation, hesitation will make it even scarier. By taking the plunge as quickly as possible, you'll prevent your anxiety from growing and probably resolve the situation more effectively than if you were to wait. Day 321, on being the creator of your circumstances. Man is not the creature of circumstances, circumstances are the creatures of men. It would be nice to blame our circumstances for everything bad that happens in our lives. Finally, there would be something else that is responsible for our deficiencies, inaction, lack of willpower, etc. Unfortunately, or rather, fortunately, we're the creators of the circumstances in which we find ourselves today. While you can't change where you were born, you can change where you live. While you can't change who your parents were, you can choose your teachers and mentors. While you can't change whether you were born blind, deaf, mute, or with a different physical disability, you can change how you think about it. So many people accept their circumstances for what they are, instead of acknowledging that they always have some control over them, even if it's just the ability to change how you think about them. If you don't like something about your circumstances, you can change them, accept them, or find power in them. If you don't like where you live, you can move to a different place. If for some reason you can't do that, you can accept where you live and focus on other aspects of your life there. You can also find power in your environment and discover the hidden benefits of where you live. For example, a small town might not be great for job prospects, but your costs of living are lower. Don't make yourself a victim by believing that you're a creature of circumstances, or you might as well give up any hope for a better future. Day 322, on subtraction. We survive on too little sleep, wolf down fast foods on the run, fuel up with coffee and cool down with alcohol and sleeping pills. Faced with relentless demands at work, we become short-tempered and easily distracted. We return home from long days at work feeling exhausted and often experience our families not as a source of joy and renewal, but as one more demand in an already overburdened life. It makes me exhausted just to read this quote, let alone imagine that it's possible to achieve any kind of positive results while living such a life. If you're overburdened and feel like you have no control over your life, it's time to change your life philosophy from the philosophy of addition to the philosophy of subtraction. Let me explain. The philosophy of addition is thinking that more is better. It means that you're afraid to miss out on opportunities and that you say yes to everything, worried that saying no will make you unpopular or that you'll appear selfish or lazy. You constantly add and add, thinking that it's through adding that your life gets better. Of course, in a certain way it does. The more you learn, the better you are. Generally speaking, the more money you have, the easier your life is. However, this doesn't apply to obligations and your calendar. The more tasks you have in your schedule and the more duties you need to attend to, the more difficult it is to stop, reflect, and decide what deserves your attention and what doesn't. For this reason, I suggest adopting the philosophy of subtraction. You believe that less is more. You think twice before you accept any new responsibilities. You constantly seek to simplify your life and free up your calendar instead of stacking one task on top of another. You feel proud of having leisure time instead of feeling guilty about it. As an exercise for today, think of just one regular task in your schedule that you could eliminate, in order to make your life less of a burden. Perhaps you can hire a maid to save time spent keeping the house clean. Maybe you already have enough money, but not enough time, and it would make sense to reduce the number of hours spent at work and accept the trade-off for the sake of your well-being. Maybe you can move closer to your workplace, or the opposite, start working at home. Perhaps it would be a good investment to use the services of a home meal delivery company and save the time spent on cooking and grocery shopping. Subtract the unessential from your life to increase your focus on what is essential, but doesn't get enough attention because of all the other, less important obligations. Week 47. Day 323, on prolonged sitting. Because a dramatic reduction in energy expenditure was not accompanied by reduced appetite, prolonged sitting may promote excess energy intake, leading to weight gain in both men and women. Research shows that even though there's a dramatic reduction in energy expenditure when we sit, our appetites don't drop down accordingly. This means that the more time you spend sitting, the more of a caloric surplus you create, and you gain weight more easily. This poses a big problem for self-discipline because no amount of self-control will help you lose weight if you don't expend much energy but your appetite behaves as if you did. If you sit at work, consider standing up for at least a period of time when working. Stand-up desks are getting more and more popular, so it might be worth it to consider buying one or building it yourself. If it's not possible to work standing up, at least get up every now and then and perform some quick exercises to offset some of the negative consequences of sitting. At home, one of the biggest offenders is mindlessly watching TV. You can greatly reduce the amount of time spent sitting by eliminating cable TV and only watching specific movies or TV shows. Channel hopping puts you in a zombie-like state, which, when combined with snacking, can make it almost impossible to ever get in shape. Think of sitting as a debt you need to repay. Fortunately, you can repay the debt not only with actual exercise, but also with little actions, standing up in the kitchen, performing household chores, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking a little bit farther away from the entrance to the supermarket. Strive to move as much as you can, and you'll reduce the negative impact prolonged sitting has on your well-being and increase your chances of successfully shedding that belly fat. Day 324, on ignoring the world when you're down. So long as the man with ambition is a failure, the world will tell him to let go of his ideal, but when his ambition is realized, the world will praise him for the persistence and the determination that he manifested during his dark hours, and everybody will point to his life as an example for coming generations. This is invariably the rule. Therefore, pay no attention to what the world says when you are down. Be determined to get up, to reach the highest goal you have in view, and you will. Larson's words were as true during his era. He wrote those words in 1912, as they are now. If you're ambitious, something that most people lack, you're already considered a little weird by society's standards. People will try to persuade you to give up or take it easy because it's a threat to their own egos. If you, a person just like them, manages to turn his or her dreams into reality, what does it say about their capabilities? This invariably changes when you reach success. While you were down, few people stop to lend a helping hand or offer you words of support. When you're successful, suddenly everyone proclaims that they knew from the get-go that you would succeed. If you're currently struggling and feeling down, make an effort to surround yourself with positive input as if you wanted to build a protective bubble around yourself. Keep away from negative people who would love to finish you off with their nasty remarks. Get up, try again, and keep going until you get there. Take note of who was there for you while you were struggling and don't forget to reward them with your gratitude. As for the others, forget them, fair weather friends are no friends at all. Day 325, on being the child of your own works. Everyone is the son of his own works. Here's a fun metaphor for today: you're the parent of yourself, and hence, you're the child of your own decisions, habits, and beliefs. Would you raise your children in the same way as you're raising yourself? Are you being a good parent, ensuring that their child grows up with self-discipline, or are you lax, constantly cutting your child some slack and ultimately turning them into a weak-willed adult? Are you understanding and supportive or critical and mean when your child makes errors while trying to fail their way to success? Lastly, are you setting a good example? Do you expect one thing from your child and then do the opposite when they aren't looking? Day 326, on your deeds determining you. Our deeds determine us, as much as we determine our deeds. You control what actions you take or don't take, but in the long run, the actions that you take or don't take also control you because they determine who you are. As confusing as it sounds, there's an important lesson hiding in there. When pondering what to do or not do, ask yourself what the person you'd like to become would or wouldn't do. We define people by actions they take, so if you change the actions you take, you'll also change your own definition of yourself. For example, a person who runs often is a runner, while a person who constantly exposes themselves to danger for the fun of it is a daredevil. On the opposite end of the spectrum, a person who sits on the sofa the entire day is a slacker, while a person who never stands up for themselves is a doormat. The primary determinant of a runner, daredevil, slacker or doormat, rather than a specific adjective or trait, is what actions they take or don't take. Each action of yours, just like each thought or habit you have, has an impact on the direction your personal change is going to take. Think beyond the immediate consequences and consider each deed as a building block of the new you. What actions are congruent with the person you desire to become and what deeds aren't? When thinking of the person you want to become in the future, along with setting new goals, make a list of actions the desired future you will engage in regularly in the actions that person will refuse to perform. For example, if you want to become a more positive person, some of the actions you'll engage in regularly include smiling, laughing, and expressing your gratitude, while some of the actions you'll refuse to perform would be complaining, brooding, and criticizing. Day 327, on the biggest person standing in your way. You might occasionally feel that some people are standing in the way and slowing your progress, but in reality the biggest person standing in your way is you. Others can stop you temporarily, you are the only one who can do it permanently. When others sabotage your efforts to implement a positive change in your life, it's tempting to blame them for your lack of results. However, while they can affect your endeavors temporarily, in the end it's only you who can torpedo your dreams. For one, ultimately it's you who makes a judgment of what the action of another person means to you and your goals. You can approach somebody's effort to sabotage your dreams as an excuse to give up, or you can treat it as an obstacle that is an inherent part of the process. A friend who taunts you about your lack of results when dieting might discourage you, or they might boost your resolve to show them what you're capable of. Second, when other people try to limit your dreams, question your abilities, or tell you to stop having your head in the clouds, ultimately it's not their belief that counts, it's what you yourself think about the feasibility of your goals. Will you be bothered by people who doubt that you'll ever build a successful business? Of course you will. Will they make you doubt that you'll succeed? That would happen only if you let them, by valuing their words more than your own belief in your abilities. Finally, when others are required to make your dreams come true and it seems as if they're actively against you, say, a gatekeeper who won't let you get through to the CEO of the company you'd like to sell your services to, yet again they are not the ones who can destroy your goal. It's still up to you. You can come up with a different way to reach the CEO or develop a completely different approach to sell your service and grow your business. Others can slow your progress, but it doesn't mean that you're powerless. When somebody stands in your way, jump over them, crawl underneath them, go around them, or punch them in the face, just kidding with the last one. Day 328, on anger. If you don't want to be cantankerous, don't feed your temper, or multiply incidents of anger. Suppress the first impulse to be angry, then begin to count the days on which you don't get mad. Anger, or any other emotion that leads to impulsive decisions that you later regret, is an enemy of self-discipline. While it's not always possible to catch yourself feeling angry before it converts into a full-blown attack of rage, whenever you can, act quickly and suppress the anger instead of feeding it. Anger that compounds on itself will quickly take away any remnants of self-control that you may have. For example, when I'm stuck in a traffic jam, annoyed at other drivers or at the traffic lights seeming to take hours to change, I try to redirect my growing anger into another emotion, stop myself from cursing, or at least try to curse in a humorous way that won't feed my frustration. That way, I prevent my anger from taking control of the situation. It's a simple technique, but don't let it fool you, it's one of the most effective strategies to overcome attacks of Unnecessary anger. If you want to eliminate frequent attacks of anger from your life, begin counting the days on which you successfully suppressed the first impulse to be angry. After a 7-day winning streak, you won't want to lose all of your progress because of such a trivial thing as another driver driving too slowly or things temporarily not going your way. Will this strategy always work? Obviously not. Everyone gets angry from time to time. However, if you make a conscious effort not to feed your temper, you'll reprogram your default behavior, greatly reduce the frequency of losing your temper, and gain better control over your emotional state. Day 329, on a change in beliefs. All personal breakthroughs begin with a change in beliefs. So how do we change? The most effective way is to get your brain to associate massive pain to the old belief. You must feel deep in your gut that not only has this belief cost you pain in the past, but it's costing you in the present and, ultimately, can only bring you pain in the future. You won't change until you recognize your bad beliefs and habits as your enemies. The best way to change them is to associate them with the pain that they've been steadily delivering to you ever since you first adopted them. For example, I overcame my habit of staying up late and waking up at 1 to 2 p.m. largely because of associating it with the depression I felt each winter because of a lack of sunlight. Upon realizing that my habit and belief that I was a night owl had cost me so much and would bring me so much more pain in the future, I switched my routine. Today, I can hardly think of a better feeling than getting up early and being super productive from beginning my day in the early morning. What are your habits and beliefs costing you? You need to recognize all the different kinds of costs they have generated, are generating, and will continue to generate in the future if you don't make some changes in your life. You will only be ready to change when you feel deep down in your gut how detrimental they are to you and your life. Week 48. Day 330, on turning back right at the very end. Don't turn back when you are just at the goal. Many people have a tendency to back out right at the end of the journey, mere steps from accomplishing their long-term goal. If they knew that success was around the corner, they would find it in themselves to keep going. However, since it's so difficult to diagnose whether success is right around the corner or still a long way off, it happens that many throw in the towel mere seconds from their opponent falling to the ground. To prevent such an unfortunate situation from happening, from now on assume that if you've been working on a given goal for a long period of time and you're down on your knees, ready to accept defeat, it's the last test. Stand up, brush yourself off and take a few more steps. Give yourself a week or two more and make the last effort. If your situation doesn't change and there's still no success around the corner, accept a temporary defeat and step away to recover. If it does change, and you meet success, you'll be glad you'd used the last remnants of energy to keep going.